Let's get a reader now on all things happening in US politics, really starting to ramp up now. Let's bring in Alex Tureman, founder of Bondi Partners, joining us live via Skype in Washington, D.C., right on the ground there. Pleasure to have you on the program, Alex. Thanks for joining us. Question here is, we're nearing August, aren't we? And, well, pretty much in August almost, next week. Vice President Biden expected to announce his running mate. What are you hearing there on the ground in terms of who that might be?
Well, Ingrid, thanks for having me on. It's a great question. And yeah, the vice president today announced to a group of reporters that he will be announcing his vice presidential pick mid next week. So it's an exciting time, and we're finally getting into the home stretch of the campaign here. There's only about 6 people on earth that actually know who's leading the pack right now in the vice presidential search. And folks really got to remember that vice presidential picks are extremely important. They can help fill gaps, but they don't win you elections. Jack Kemp didn't win New York for Bob Dole in 1996, and John Edwards didn't win North Carolina for John Kerry in 2004. But what they can do is help fill those gaps. They can help and hurt around the margins. We all remember Sarah Palin, the impact that she had on the 2008 race. But, Vice President Biden also had a similar positive impact, helping fill gaps for then Senator Obama when it came to foreign policy.
So if we see a Biden victory, I guess, come November, what does that look like?
Yeah, so a lot of clients have been asking me this as of late. It ranges from issue to issue. I think on foreign policy, diplomacy, in some aspects of trade, we will see a much more multilateral approach. I think you're going to see an immediate rejoining of the Paris Climate Accords. You're going to see, from an alliance standpoint, a little bit of the slowing down on the rhetoric around trade and steel and aluminum. But there's areas where the vice president truly believes that in order to be strong abroad, we've got to be strong at home. And so you see that in the economic package that he's rolled out in the past few weeks. The Build Back Better program talks about investing in geodiversity of manufacturing, R&D, critical infrastructure, digital infrastructure, sustainable energy. And so I think that's the central component of the economic portion of the vice president's platform. But I think the global economy should be encouraged should the vice president win, because when it comes to an issue like China, at least the campaign truly believes that, we got to compete and confront where we must, but we've got to cooperate where we can. So that potentially could see, the China issue here in Washington is very much a bipartisan issue. And I know Australia is squarely in the crosshairs down there. But it's definitely going to be a less rhetorically scattershot administration, and focus a little bit more on allies being at the table.
It's interesting because we know the campaign trails had to change a bit, obviously due to the pandemic. What does voting look like in November? Do we have any idea of how this could impact even numbers around voting?
Yeah. Well, we're 98 days out. We're in double digits at this point. But folks got to remember that we're less than 60 days out from the first ballot being cast via early voting. And as evidenced in the Georgia primary and the Wisconsin primary, Ingrid, and I know you and I spoke about the Georgia primary a month and a half ago or so, but there were massively long lines. Folks were in line for 5, 6, 7 hours. There was a lack of poll workers as a result of the pandemic. And of course, as always, since 2016, we got to worry about election interference, be it digital election interference or via the social media. So there are concerns around that. This week, Congress is working on a new COVID relief package. In that package, they're looking, at least Democrats are looking to include some additional funding for state electoral systems. So that's an area we'll be watching very closely. And it's a major concern in all 50 states.
Yeah, there's also this Congress heated debate over pandemic unemployment payments. Where does that stand at the moment?
Yes, so similar to the JobKeeper debate in Australia, since March, Congress has employed about $600 in additional federal assistance to workers that have lost their job as a result of the pandemic. And that's in addition to state unemployment benefits. So that is set to expire on Friday. Congress right now, both chambers, the Senate and the House, are feverishly debating what that number should look like. The Republicans currently believe that it should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 additional bucks a week. The Democrats are still sticking strong to the $600 number. But folks got to remember that, the $600 in unemployment assistance, help folks pay their rent, help put food on the table, help pay for pharmaceuticals throughout the course of this pandemic. And it's going to be, a massive, a pretty negative impact on the economy if folks aren't able to make rent in August. But I'm confident Congress will get there. It just might not be by Friday, and it might have to be retroactive in that case.
Alex, so much to watch. It's going to be an exciting 98 days, that's for sure. Thanks for joining us on the program. We'll look forward to chatting with you next week.